It's Pete and Kimber with Ben Cousins.
He's from the Happy Families podcast. His name is Dr Justin Coulson. Good morning. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks, Pete. Good to be with you.
It's nice to have you here. Look, your Facebook caught our attention because you had some comments there, some very strong and, look, to be honest with you, as far as we read, some very necessary comments, frankly, about something that happened here in WA, where a group of male students were caught in uniform, and regardless of whether they're caught in uniform or not, that's beside the point, but caught in uniform on public transport, and they were having one of the most vulgar conversations as a group of young men about sexualizing women, and it was picked up and the story went viral for good reason, obviously. Dr. Justin, are we losing control of our kids? Is this unusual, or is this something we're seeing more and more of these days?
This is a really hard thing to talk about, Pete. Let me say it in one simple sentence. Sexual violence has become entertainment for too many of our young men, and schools and parents and society is looking away. And all the while it's being aided and abetted by tech CEOs who are mendaciously making billions off the suffering and misery of our young people.
I cannot get over, I've got an Instagram feed, and I'll jump on the thing that feeds me sort of different things of Instagram, and I cannot believe the amount of videos that pop up of women being sexualized, frankly. It is just absolutely insane that this stuff is landing in the fingertips of young people at such an early age. It's why in our household we refuse to give you kids a mobile phone and access to the internet on your own terms. Any time before the age of 16, frankly. And even then it almost feels too young to be exposing them to this sort of stuff.
Yeah, Pete, kids don't need smartphones, they need smart parents. And smart parents give their kids dumb phones if they give them a phone at all. The minute you hand your telephone or hand a telephone to a child, the phone becomes the centre of their world. It's everything that they think about, it's everything they talk about, it's where their world starts to exist. And the stuff that our kids are able to access on their digital platforms would have been illegal to sell to adults a generation ago.
Right.
I can't put too fine a point on this.
Yeah.
We're having all these conversations about the privacy of kids and do we or don't we. Our kids are literally swimming in a digital sewer and we're having arguments about whether we should or shouldn't construct a fence. We're letting our kids down. And I hate to say this. I want to point the finger squarely at governments who refuse to age-gate pornographic content, and tech CEOs who, like I said, are just mendacious in the way that they lie about what they're doing when all they want is engagement and, frankly, addiction. It's an addiction economy.
Yeah.
But we as parents have got to take some responsibility. I mean, parents are not monitoring, they're not supervising, and they're not having regular conversations, checking in with their kids and teaching them, giving them the moral guardrails that they need to keep the people around them and themselves safe and strong.
Do you believe that parents are coming at it from, with the best of intentions, though? I can tell you this from personal experience. I've got 3 kids, 2 daughters that are 9 and 7 and a young son that's 4 years old. And, frankly, we're so incredibly busy. We try as hard as we possibly can to keep these kids off screens and to keep them away from the internet and so on and so forth. But sometimes you're just trying to make dinner and get through a day and pay a few bills, and you just need to throw them on something or on a device or something like that just to be able to get 5 minutes to yourself. Do you think we've got the best of intentions, or are we just not doing it well enough?
I think it's a bit from column A and a bit from column B. Every parent loves their kids. Every parent wants to keep them safe. Every parent wants to support their child to have a wonderful childhood. So there's no argument there. But your child doesn't need an iPad. There's this thing called ABC Kids. And that was good enough for a couple of generations. And all of a sudden it's not enough anymore. There's old school things where you don't even have screens at all. But if your child needs a screen, they don't need to have the entirety of the world's knowledge and access to everything that exists on an iPad or an iPhone or whatever brand of device you want to use. The good old telly is probably okay if you need to be able to have a shower or go to the loo without the kids tugging on your leg and saying, but Mum or but Dad, I need you right now. we don't have to look to the most advanced technological products as the solutions to I need some downtime.
Yeah. How do you feel about how much iPad time kids have in schools these days? Because our eldest daughter, she has an iPad and she's just gotten to the year now where she's allowed to take the iPad home and do her homework on it and like that. And, we've often sort of had a bit of a chat about going like, where's the old pad and pen? Like, isn't that still necessary to be able to use that and learn skills with that? But, this is being pushed by the education department, by schools. iPads are frankly just a facet of everyday education and life for kids these days. How do you feel about that?
I completely reject the idea that we need them, and they're causing more disharmony in family homes than almost any other decision that any educator has ever made in history. Back in about 2000, and I can't remember, maybe 2007, 2009, whatever it was, Kevin Rudd came in and said, education revolution, every kid's going to have a tablet or a laptop. And from that point on, two things have happened. Number one, families have been in disarray and disharmony because it creates something new for everyone to fight over. Here's another screen and it's got full-blown access to everything.
Tell me about it.
Two,
yeah.
Our grades, our kids' grades have been going down in terms of our international participation in things like PISA and even with things like NAPLAN. Our kids aren't doing better. The education revolution is a great big ugly, I don't know, what do you call it, like a white or pink elephant or whatever it is. It's just, it hasn't worked. In fact, recent studies are showing that the very best schools in the world and even in Australia, are taking the digital space back. They're taking the devices away from the kids because they've highlighted that if you do it the old analog way with pen and paper, or if you're holding the book, your brain processes differently, you learn more, you learn better, and the learning sticks. In other words, the stuff that we thought was going to revolutionize education is actually ruining it, as well as our families and relationships.
Right. It's tragic, to say the least, by the sounds of things. One final thing, and we are surrounded by it because we as adults have devices, and our feeds feed us the things that are part of our lives, like how other adults are going, and feedback about our parenting, which is constantly in our lives these days. But it does feel like we are surrounded by a pandemic of children that we're losing control over. Now, is this, as far as you're concerned, the fact that social media helps to accelerate that around us and really amplifies that? Or is there truth behind this and what we're feeling that we are losing control of our kids?
Pete, I'm a dad. I've got 6 daughters. I'm currently raising my 5th 15-year-old girl. So you do the maths on that. I've been doing this for a really, really, really long time.
Yeah.
And what I've watched happen, especially over the last half a dozen years or so, but this has really been happening for a little bit longer than that, is that we're so caught up in this whole gentle parenting thing. We really, 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 really want to be there for our kids. We want to be their therapist, and we want to be the safe place for them. And that's really great. It's really nice, but it doesn't actually give the kids what they need. Research is super clear. Now, I'm not one of those hardcore, tough love, drink some concrete and harden up kind of, that's not healthy either. That's actually quite unhealthy. But data for decades now has shown that our kids do best when they've got a good relationship with us, which most parents are working really hard on, which is great. Mm-hmm. When they feel like they're figuring stuff out, and most kids are doing okay there, and when they have this thing that's called autonomy support. Now, a lot of people think that means that you sit down with the kids and you basically give them as much freedom and independence as you can. That's not what it means. It means that you sit down with kids and you work out rules and boundaries the best way you can together. And every now and again, if it's not quite working, you as the parent say, hey, guess what, kiddo? I mean, I said this to my 15-year-old the other day. I said, it must be really hard for you at the moment because your prefrontal cortex just isn't quite there, is it?
Oh, God, yeah.
And she looked at me
and
she rolled her eyes and she could see that I had a smile on my face. I mean, I didn't say it as an insult.
Yeah.
And I said, so here's the thing. You're fighting with me about this, but I'm the dad. Yeah. And I'm the one whose brain works the way it's supposed to, and I'm the one that's got 50 years of life experience behind me. And I know you feel like you know better because you're 15 and you're living it. But this one is on me. I'm making this decision, and this is the way that it's going to go until we can work out something that you also feel good about. And as parents, it's not about taking back control. It's about protecting our kids. Like if you've got a child, in the last day or so, Pete, in the last day or so, and this is really, really hard for me to say, there's been there's been 20 Year 10 boys at one of the most prestigious schools in Melbourne who have been caught sharing child sexual abuse material
Jesus Christ.
for entertainment.
Yeah.
Now, 7 News has just reported on exactly the same day that a 5-year-old girl has been sexually assaulted at school by a group of 5- and 6-year-old boys from her class.
Oh, my God.
And it's happening at school. She had to have local anaesthetic for several days so she could pee.
Oh, my God.
Right? Now this means that we as parents need to do better. We've got to stop saying, hey, here's the screen. We've got to have reasonable limits and protections in place. And we've got to talk early and often because our kids are the victims. Our kids are the ones that are bearing the price. And I'll tell you what, if that was my 5-year-old daughter, I'd be bashing down the door of the school and finding out where those kids lived. And I'd have those parents by the scruff of the neck saying, what are you teaching your sons or what are you not teaching them? Yeah. Silence is negligence.
Yeah. The schools, right, is another thing that comes up often. And it feels like the schools are so inundated with things that they've never had to deal with at this extent. Now, I'm talking about, the uptick in ADHD and autism assessments that, flow on to schools because teachers need to do the assessments that parents are being told by therapists and pediatricians that they need done. And, quite often you're having multiple kids now these days being a part of that and having to have these assessments done. Do you think the schools are under-resourced, under-supported? Do you think that it's gone past them now where they've lost control to a degree?
Yes to all of that. School principals particularly. In some ways, I'm really frustrated with a lot of school leaders, and in other ways, my heart goes out to them. I mean, more than 50% of school principals want to leave the profession because they're just exhausted, they're overworked, and they're dealing with so much stuff. And yet, in the same breath, we've got these kids that are behaving like this, and school principals keep on sitting down and saying, well, let's understand the context and let's work through this and let's give this kid a chance. Meanwhile, the girl that's been assaulted, because it's usually the girls that are assaulted and it's the boys that are the perpetrators, although not always, but usually, the girls have to go to school every day and sit in the same classroom. Or the girls are told, well, why don't you move? What I've found is this: reputational repercussions and financial repercussions are all too often, devastatingly, the only thing that really leads to the kind of action that most parents would think is reasonable. And that's an indictment. That is an indictment on the schools. I had a wonderful chat with the school principal just last week. He sat down with a boy who had done absolutely a vile and wrong thing to another girl. And his parents were advocating for him, as parents often do. But if you don't take responsibility and ownership and accountability as a parent, what chance is there that your son will? And so the parent said, but our son needs an education. And this principal, he looked them in the eyes and he said, you're right, he does, but it won't be at this school. Until kids have to face the consequences, the very real consequences of what they've done, and until parents stop backing them when they've done the wrong thing and say, you know what, buddy, you've overstepped. We love you, we'll support you, but you're going to wear this. Until that happens, we're going to just continue to see these, our thoughts and prayers. We're looking into it. We're deeply troubled. We're terribly concerned. That doesn't cut it. That just doesn't cut it.
Frankly, I have to agree with you. Dr. Justin Coulson, I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much for your thoughts on all of these. It is deep in the minds of our listeners at the moment. It's the conversation we've been having on the show the last couple of weeks, and your time is appreciated. You can check out the Happy Families podcast to catch up on more of Dr. Justin Coulson's stuff. But thanks for giving us your time this morning.
Good morning, Pete. Thanks.
Pete and Kimber with Ben Cousins, 6 to 9 weekdays.